Job chapter 1, I want to read verse 1 through verse 5. Let me thank all of the volunteers, staff members of our church, those who are at home, those who are in the building. We could not do what we do without you. Let's read these verses together. Job chapter 1, verse 1 through verse 5. Again, I'm reading from the Message Bible. Help me celebrate this gifted music ministry. Such a blessing. Such a blessing. Such a blessing. Love their hearts. Love their commitment to the things of God. Pray for our country. Pray for our world. Pray for the crazy people in our world. Pray for our community. There's one or two crazy folks in our community that need our prayers. All right, Job chapter 1, verse 1 through verse 5. Let's read these verses together. Job was a man who lived in Uz. He was honest inside and out, a man of his word who was totally devoted to God and hated evil with a passion. Can we read verse 1 again? I'm wondering if you could put your name in there anywhere on one of these lines, just anywhere. Job was a man who lived in Uz. He was honest inside and out, a man of his word who was totally devoted to God and hated evil with a passion. Boy, that'd be good to have on your resume. Verse 2, he had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He was also very wealthy. Now, some of us wish we could have that on our resume. He was also very wealthy. What did he have? 7,000 head of sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen. That's 1,000. 500 teams of oxen. 500 donkeys, and a huge staff of servants, the most influential man in all the East. His sons used to take turns hosting parties in their homes, always inviting their 3 sisters to join them in their merrymaking. Watch this. When the parties were over, Job would get up early in the morning and sacrifice a burnt offering for each of his children, thinking maybe one of them sinned by defying God inwardly. Job made a habit of this sacrificial atonement just in case they sinned. And that's what I want to talk about this morning for the next couple of weeks. Let's focus on the family. You may be seated in the Lord's presence. There are 42 chapters in the book of Job, and I believe that we could take all 42 of these chapters and really break them into about 4 different pieces. 4 different pieces. Let me give you all 4 pieces that help us to understand the book of Job in its entirety. The first piece is in Job chapter 1 and in Job chapter 2. I call that the humanity of Job. The humanity of Job. Job was an ordinary human being. We see it in verse 1. We see it in verse 2, the humanity of Job. Because what you will read later on in Job 1 and in Job chapter 2 is that Satan himself showed up. God said to Satan, "Where have you been?" Satan said, "I've been to and fro in the earth looking for someone that I could devour or take advantage of." And God said, "Have you considered my servant Job?" Satan's response was, "I checked Job out but you have a hedge of protection around Job. What Satan was saying was, the only reason that Job loves you and honors you is because of what you're doing for him. And God said, you can touch everything that Job has, but his soul belongs to me. And in Job chapter 1, Job loses all of his industry, that is, all of his livestock, and he loses his children. And Job's response was, I didn't come into the world with anything. I'm not going to leave with anything. The Lord has given, the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. Sounds good when you read it. A little more difficult when you got to live it. Because if we went home today and our phone was ringing and every material possession that we owned, along with our beloved children, if all of those things were all taken away all at the same time, many of us would be crushed. Job's position was, everything I have, God has given to me on loan. Oh, let that sink in right there. It's hard to get mad at God when he takes back from you what he only loaned you in the first place. Oh, that's good right there. And could it be the problem with a lot of us? The reason we hold on to things so tightly is because we believe they're ours. When the reality is, whatever you have is just yours on loan. Your money is yours on loan. Your relatives are yours on loan. That's why you got to be careful how you treat them, because one day you got to turn them back over to the one who loaned them to you. And at a minimum, you don't even want to turn it back over to them the way they turned it over to you. You want to turn it over better to them than the way they turn it over to you. There's some friends right here in this church. I had gone through some periods years ago when I was having my automobile worked on. And whenever I needed my automobile worked on, they would loan me their vehicles. And it didn't matter how much gas was in it when they loaned it to me. I always brought it back with a full tank of gas. Because when somebody thinks enough of you to loan you something, you want to give it back to them better than the way that you received it. Your money is just yours on loan. Your loved ones are just yours on loan. Let's stop getting so mad at God when he takes back what belonged to him. And all the people said, I'm not done, but you know, that's just a good place to put an amen. So that's in Job chapter 1. In Job chapter 2, God runs into Satan again. He says, where have you been? He said, I've been to and fro in the earth, seeking whom I may devour. God said, have you checked out my servant Job? And Satan said, I checked him out. And bothering his stuff did not cause him to curse you to your face. But if you let me touch his body, he'll curse you to your face. And God says, you can touch his body, but his soul, his life belongs to me. Immediately, Job was stricken with what the King James Version calls boils. These were itching, oozing sores. Every place on Job's body where there was skin, there was an itching, oozing sore. Sores on his eyelids, sores in between his fingers, sores in between his toes. everywhere on Job's body that there was skin, there was an itching, oozing sore. Those who were relatively close to him said, Job, you should just curse God and go ahead and die. And Job's response was, how is it that I can get happy when God gives me good things, but get sad when he allows some bad things? So Neil, it sounds good when you say it. It's a little more difficult when you got to live it. Because most of us in here, I've shared with you all before, there's several times that I rejoice. Several times throughout the month, I rejoice. I rejoiced this past Friday. I won't rejoice necessarily this upcoming Friday, but I will rejoice again the following Friday. You know what happened last Friday? And you know what's going to happen in 2 more Fridays? You know what happened, Brother Don? I got paid. Y'all deep. I'm not that. That deposit hit somewhere in the middle of the night on Friday night. I be checking that phone to see when that thing hit. And boy, when it hit, I gets happy. Then them first of the month bills hit. And I get sad all over. You're sad all over. I'm trying to work that thing out so that I can just, I don't know. Maybe we need to pray about that. Maybe y'all need to think about a special intermittent love offering. That y'all hook me up with the regular check on them regular weeks, but y'all think about something else y'all can do. Because you want your pastor happy all the time. And I'll call y'all job and I'll tell them the same. We in this together. We're in this together. So in chapters 1 and in chapter 2, you find the humanity of Job. Even though he was wealthy, had a great reputation, he was still a human being. He had ups, he had downs. God loaned him some stuff, then God took it away. The humanity of Job. Second thing I want you to see when you read the book of Job is not in chapters 1 and chapter 2. It's really in chapter 3 through chapter 37. And that is what I call the humiliation of Job. The humiliation of Job. Job had a total of 4 friends that we know by name. The first of the 4, the first 3, were Eliphaz, Zophar, and Bildad. They came and sat with Job for 7 straight days without saying a word, and then when they did speak, they spoke too quickly. They said to Job, the only reason God is allowing all of this to happen in your life is because you have sinned and you refuse to confess it. Now the man has lost his industry, lost his children, lost his health, and his friends show up and accuse him of wrongdoing. Have you ever been there? When you're already at your lowest low, and then some low down dirty devils come along to add insult to your industry, to your injury. People who you've been praying about whatever your issue is, and they come along and say, if you'd have just prayed a little harder, if you would have just fasted one more day. You know what you ought to do with them people, Deacon Charlie? Choke them. And then pray and fast one more day. Let me get one good choke in. And then that'll give me another reason to pray and fast after I done put my thumbs to the back of your throat. And then I can pray some more. So from chapter 3 all the way to chapter 37, Eliphaz, Zophar, and Bildad, 3 so-called friends of Job, accused him of committing sin. He had one friend, however, who was the younger of the four. His name was Elihu. Some scholars pronounce it Elihu. And Elihu came and he jumped on Job's friends, and he jumped on Job too. He jumped on Eliphaz, Zophar, and Bildad and said, "You are accusing this man of sin, but you don't have any proof." But then he jumped on Job and said, "Job, my problem with you is you act like you can't do anything wrong." And so Elihu said that both of you are wrong. But you find that in chapter 3 through chapter 37. That's the humiliation of Job. Something else occurs during Job's humiliation. Job said, "All of this is happening to me. I understand that I am not above bad things happening to me." But Job said, "I wish I knew what the reason was." Have you ever been there? Where you're going through something and you wish God would just give you a reason. Job went as far as to say, "I wish I had a divine defense attorney who could put one hand on me and one hand on God and determine which of us is really at fault." Job had a whole lot of questions that he had for God. So in chapter 1 through chapter 2, you find the humanity of Job. Chapter 3 through chapter 37, you find the humiliation of Job. But then in chapter 38 and chapter 39, you find the humbling of Job. You may pronounce it humbling. I call it the humbling of Job. Because in chapter 38 and chapter 39, God showed up. Reverend Dr. Mack King Carter says that the angel Gabriel walked into God's cosmic chambers and laid down some paperwork. And God said, "What is this?" And Gabriel responded, "These are some charges from us, because Job is mad at you and Job has some questions." And Dr. Carter says that God responded to Gabriel, "Bring the chariot around. Let me go down and see Job." And Gabriel responded, "It won't take us long to get there because you're everywhere at the same time." And when God gets to Job, he does not answer even one of his questions. But God did have some questions of his own. God said, "Where were you when I stood in a pre-creation sanctuary, when the only pulpit I had was the power of my own personality? Where were you when I spoke and Mother Earth dressed up in a green garment and I tacked it down with daffodils, lilies, hollyhocks, snapdragons, roses, and trees? Where were you when I took the draperies of a rainbow and wrapped them around the shoulders of a storm and called it a calm and peaceful day? Where were you when I clapped my hands and the lightning began to flash, batted my eyes and the thunder began to roll? Where were you?" And finally, Job's conclusion was, "Lord, you are large and in charge. Forgive me for coming at you with questions that had no real merit." So in chapter 38 through chapter 39, you find the humbling of Job, how that God brought him to a place of bringing him down off of his high horse. But then in chapter 40 through chapter 42, you don't find the humanity of Job, the humiliation of Job, the humbling of Job. In chapter 40 through chapter 42, you find the humility of Job. Humility of Job in chapter 40 through chapter 42. God does something amazing in those chapters. God said to Job, "I'm going to forgive you for charging me foolishly." He said, "I'm also going to forgive your three friends, Eliphaz, Zophar, and Bildad." He said, "If I don't forgive your three friends, I will have to kill your three friends." And then he said, Job, here's how I'm going to forgive them. The only way I will forgive them is if you pray for them and ask me to forgive them. I read that thing, Brother Don. I said, the devil is a lie. I said, they're finna be dead. A cowboy was walking through the woods with his partner. Cowboy got bit on the backside by a rattlesnake. And he sent his friend to go find a doctor to get help. Friend goes to the doctor to get help. Doctor says the only way you can cure your friend out of poison is to go to wherever the snake bite is and suck the poison out. And the man went all the way back to his partner, and he said, well, what did the doctor say? He said, doctor said, you're going to die. Doctor said, it's over for you. God said to Job, the only way your three friends, Eliphaz, Zophar, and Bildad, the only way they're going to be spared is if you pray for them. These are the same friends who attacked Job from chapter 3 all the way to chapter 37. And God says the only way I'm going to deliver them is if you pray for them. And you know what Job did? He prayed for his friends. And God turned the captivity of Job. And God restored the vexation against his friends. Because he prayed for them. Who is it in your life who has wronged you? You hate them instead of praying for them. But you ain't hurting nobody but yourself. Your bitterness is keeping you from being blessed because you won't pray for some people who hurt you. Ooh. Somebody just came up with a list in the spirit of the people you can't stand, the people who get on your nerves, the people you've been praying against instead of praying for. Have you ever noticed when you don't like people, you don't like nothing about them? They can just walk in the room. You'd be like, what they walking for? They can sneeze, they can cough. What you sneezing for? Because people sneeze. That's what you breathing for. Why you always inhaling and exhaling? Because when you don't like people, you don't like nothing about them. Job prayed for his friends. God restored his friends. But then God gave Job twice as much as what he already had. That's the humility of Job. And I think, Sister Mary, that one of the things we often miss in studying the life of Job is the importance that Job's family played in his life. And what I want to do with these next few Baptist minutes that I have, I just got a few of them left. I want to walk you through, because this is a series. I don't want to give it to you all one time. Like the man who had a hog, and the hog only had 3 legs. And anytime people would come to his house, they wanted to know, man, what happened to the 4th leg on the hog? He said, man, this is a miracle hog. He said, one day I was down cutting grass by the pond on my riding lawnmower. Lawnmower flipped over, had me pinned up under the lawnmower. And that pig went all the way back home and got help and brought them back to help flip that lawnmower. Oh, he said, well, is that how he lost his legs? He said, no. He said, one day one of my kids was drowning in the pond. And the pig saw the child drowning in the pond and swam out into the water and grabbed hold to my child. and pulled the child back to safety. He said, "Is that how he lost his leg?" He said, "No." He said, "Man, one day my house was on fire, about to burn down. I was going to lose everything. And the hog went and found me and alerted me that my house was on fire. And I went back and put the fire." He said, "Man, is that how the pig lost his leg?" He said, "No, that ain't how he lost his leg." So Deidre, he then said, "Any pig that's that good to you, you don't eat him all one time." I've only gotten as far as this one leg. So I don't want to try to eat this whole pig at one time. I want to break this pig into I want to break this pig into some pieces and walk through it piece by piece. I want to say three things to you about children and family in this leg of the journey, and then we'll press forward going into next week. Here's the first thing I want to say. Children will be children. Children will be children. Can I share this with you for free? There is one reason your children are not going to be perfect. Can I tell you what that is? Because you wasn't perfect. Now I know you like to make your... Can I tell you something you probably don't have at home tucked away in a box? You probably got some love notes from back in the 60s tucked away in a box. But let me tell you something you probably don't have tucked away in a box at home. Your old report cards. You know why? Some of us graduated magna cum laude. Others of us graduated oh help me Lordy. We just barely made it out of there. A man was trying to encourage his son. And he said, "Boy, when Abraham Lincoln was your age, he was walking miles to school." Little boy looked up at his dad and said, "When Abraham Lincoln was your age, he was president." What's your problem, Daddy? You saying I'm behind. I think you might need to catch up. Children will be children. And I think sometimes we are overly frustrated with the performances of our children because we want them to be perfect. When the truth is, you weren't perfect to your earthly parents, and you sure ain't perfect to your heavenly Father. Children will be children. Let me prove it to you in the text. Verse 1, Job was a man who lived in Uz. He was honest inside and out, a man of his word who was totally devoted to God and hated evil with a passion. Don't miss verse 2. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. It is not by accident that the Bible tells us about Job's family. Here's verse 3. He was also very wealthy. 7,000 head of sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, 500 donkeys, a huge staff of servants, the most influential man in all the East. Here's verse 4. These are his human kids. These are his kids being kids. His sons used to take turns hosting parties in their homes, always inviting their 3 sisters to join them in their merrymaking. When the parties were over, Job would get up early in the morning, sacrifice a burnt offering for each of his children, thinking maybe one of them sinned by defying God inwardly. Job made a habit of this sacrificial atonement just in case they sinned. Job's children partied. Your kids at some point are going to party. Your kids may not always want to listen to Kirk Franklin and Shirley Caesar and James Cleveland. Sometimes your kids, sometimes not. Sometimes your kids want to listen to a little Gucci Mane. Some Lil Wayne, some Jigga, some Kanye. Sometimes. Can I share this with you for free? You used to listen to little Teddy P. You used to listen, some of y'all still listen, to little Beyonce, some Toni Braxton. Some of y'all. Okay, let me come up a little bit. Brother BJ, let me apologize for this in front of the whole church. Recently, I opened my playlist on Spotify. And I'm playing music on Spotify. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Spotify. It's a music streaming app, but it's stuff you put on there. I got a lot of stuff on my Spotify. I got some Leandria Johnson singing Jesus. I got her singing the song about, This Is My Exodus. Got some of that on there. Got some Clark sisters on there. Got some James Cleveland on there. Throw this at you for free. Got some Sam Cooke on there. Been a long time coming, but I know, the change gonna come. Bro, Juan, you know what I found on that other day? Some Houdini. Talking about friends. How many of us have them? Let's be, okay. Okay, all right. That thing got in me. Shana, almost. I promise I'm going to be saved by next week. Reason Houdini was on there is I was thinking back to songs from my childhood, and Friends by Houdini was one of those songs, and I didn't recognize I put the whole thing on the playlist like that. I took it off now the other day because I be around y'all all the time, and I can't be out here playing music at the church for the carnival and all of a sudden Houdini come on there. Now, I do know that music today is not the same as music was in previous years. But you survived Curtis Blow. You survived Jody Watley. You survived Whitney Houston. You survived Jadakiss, Jodeci, Outkast, Big Boy, Andre 3000. Some of y'all survived Two Live Crew. Luke Skywalker. Don't let me sing none of that in there. That is sure enough turned the church out. Y'all take my name off the van, the sign, everything. Job's children partied. Your kids, one form or another, they gonna party. Don't get all flipped out, all bent out of shape. Just because your kids shake it a little bit. Some of you remember this generation when the most reviled entertainer on television was Elvis Presley. Because people say Elvis shook too much. They ain't know nothing about Cardi B and Nicki Minaj. They owe Elvis an apology. Point I'm trying to make, children will be children. So stop beating yourself up over the fact that your children are not perfect. Children will be children. Hey, let me give it to you another way. Children should be children. Children should be children. Now, this gonna mess some of y'all up. This gonna mess some of y'all up. Because some of y'all got some siblings you don't talk to. Ooh, it got quiet. Some of y'all got some relatives you grew up with, but y'all don't communicate the way that you should. Watch the text. I love it in verse 1 through verse 4. Again, here's verse 1. Job was a man who lived in Uz. He was honest inside and out, a man of his word, who was totally devoted to God, hated evil with a passion. He had 7 sons and 3 daughters. He was very wealthy, 7,000 head of sheep, 3,000 camels, 500 teams of oxen, 500 donkeys, huge staff of servants, most influential man in the East. Watch verse 4. His sons used to take turns hosting parties in their homes. That means his sons equally treated their siblings. It wasn't just all the parties had to be at one boy house. They rotated the parties from house to house, and the parties were held in homes. Let me say it like this. Whenever a party was hosted, everybody brought something substantive. Some folks, you invite them, they ain't bringing nothing but cups every time they come. Cheapest thing they can come up with. They done stop by the dollar store on the way. You can't even put a rib on their plate because them things so thin that one rib will snap the plate in half. Cheap people, what I'm getting at. Cheap. Won't even stop by the store and buy a bag of ice. They trying to freeze all the ice in their freezer, bringing you all that ice out their ice box. Because they're cheap. With Job's sons, according to verse 4, they used to take turns hosting parties in their home. Don't miss this. Always inviting their 3 sisters to join them in their merrymaking. These were kids who took care of each other. And parents, if you don't teach your children anything else, teach them how to take care of each other. Teach your kids, we all we got. Teach them how to look out for each other. All that fighting and foolishness they got going on, help them to break that down so you don't never forget that this is your sister and this is your brother. Because you don't never know who you're going to need. Somebody might need a blood transfusion. Somebody might need a kidney. Somebody might need a transplant of some other kind. And if y'all mad and don't even talk, don't come to me talking about no kidney. You still owe me $500 on that lawnmower I helped you buy. Talking about you wanted to start a lawn business and won't even cut your own grass. Children should be children. Build something into your children so that they learn how to take care of each other. Parents, intervene as quickly as you can. When you see your kids growing apart, help to hold the family together. Children will be children. Children should be children. Here's the last thing I want to say today. Parents should be parents. Well, Pastor, ooh, you ain't gonna like this. You ain't gonna like this. Pastor, I had my kids young, so it's like we grew up together. Yeah, but you still their mama. You still their daddy. And just because y'all ages are close, now don't make them too close now. Where your daddy at? Down the hall in Miss Wilson class. That's too close. That's if both of y'all eat lunch the same time, then if they borrowing your algebra book, that might be just, y'all. That. Hold on now. It's too close. It's too close. Watch verse 5. This is where I'm done today. Just watch verse 5 and I'm done. Now, they had the parties in verse 4, but watch verse 5. When the parties were over, Job would get up early in the morning and sacrifice a burnt offering for each of his children, all 10, each of his children, thinking maybe one of them sinned by defying God inwardly. Job made a habit of this sacrificial atonement just in case they had sinned. When was the last time you prayed for your kids just in case they messed up? Some of us, we just waiting on the phone to ring to hear something bad. Job said, now watch this. Job says, all right, now they having a party. But Job knew enough about the character of their children that this wasn't no weed party. This wasn't no full-blown liquor head party. Because if this had been a weed party or a liquor head party, Job would not have had to question whether or not his children sinned. He could smell the sin. Some of your kids done came around your house and you have to stop them at the door. Because you got to take a drug screen at your job the next day and you don't want none of us in their outfit to get down into your sanctified soul. Say, listen, you got to stop rent door. Because whatever tree you was burning is all over you. It's in your pores. It's in your hair. You just need to be sprayed down, Febrezed. So it is obvious that Job's children were not caught up in flagrant behavior. Job was concerned about what they may have done on the inside of them, and he was honoring God just in case the children had done something wrong. And I want to encourage you, moms and dads, cover your kids. Cover them. Pray for them, just in case they may have done something to wrong God in their hearts. And all the people say it. Amen. Your kids should not just be golden to you around tax time. They made a goal around tax time. Some of y'all recognize in the last couple of years, your kids watch the news more than you thought they did. Because they came to you and said, Mom, I heard y'all getting a stimulus check for me. And I want to know when I want to know when the eagle is landing. Say, stimulus check, you sleeping in your stimulus check. You've been eating your stimulus check all your life. A stimulus. I wish I would have asked my dad about a stimulus check. He gave me a stimulus belt. forget about the check. Standing over this building. Better Christians make better parents. Better parents make better children. And the more we build into you as the body of Christ, the more you're going to be able to transform the communities that are around us. Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. Don't raise your hand. Anybody in here raising a bully? Your child a bully, your grandchild a bully. They terrorize the neighborhood, they terrorize the school. We went to some local schools a couple of years ago. Let me tell you what we asked them. Just LaBridget, this sounds awful, but this is what we wanted to know. We say, give us the names of the kids you wish would stop coming to school. That's exactly what we asked for. Because my thing was, if we can reach them, it'd make things better for everybody else. If we can find out what's going on in their home life, if we can supplement them. I wonder how many of your kids they put on the list. They said, Pastor, this one we really wish would stay home, go to your church. What is you doing? What y'all doing around there? But the more we do better on our end, on the parenting and the cultivating end, the better off people are going to be down the road. I want to pray with you. I want to pray for you. I want to call on God on your behalf. That you recognize your children are going to be children. But then your children should be children. Help them to lift each other up instead of tearing one another down. Stop all that fighting you got going on with them. Learn how to find some good middle ground, and then parent them, pray for them, cover them, that the Lord would keep them in the center of his will. Every head is bowed, every eye is closed. Lord, we love you so much, and we thank you for the privilege of you loving us and allowing us to love you. Forgive us for our sin, for our wrong. Help us to do right. Help us to be better. Watch over us, guide us, keep us, protect us. Bless us as we give. Our gifts are used for the upbuilding of your kingdom. Lord, I pray especially for those who do not know you, that they would make it official and connect with this local church. Help them to fill out that little card they were given on the way in. Drop that card in the offering plate and we'll connect with them. Specifically, those who are viewing at home, help them to fill out the jot form pinned in the comments. We want to be a blessing to them as well. Bless us as we give. Bless us as we go. Help today to be better than yesterday, this week to be better than last week. We thank you for it even now. In Jesus' name, amen. Go with God.